Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract money with little effort, while others grind endlessly with nothing to show? And what if I tell you the difference lies not in luck or hard work, but in the unseen power of imagination that Neville Goddard called the secret bridge between the inner world and the wallet you carry every day? Because every dollar, every opportunity, and every financial shift begins first as a picture in the mind before it ever shows up in your hands. And the fascinating truth is that your wallet is not just a leather pouch, but a mirror of your inner state, reflecting how you think, feel, and imagine yourself in relation to wealth. So when you see an empty wallet, you might assume lack is your reality. But in Neville's teaching, that emptiness is only a temporary shadow of old imaginal acts. And by changing the pictures you carry inside, you set in motion a new chain of events that must eventually bring your outer wallet into alignment with your inner vision. Which means, every time you feel abundance while holding your wallet, you are planting seeds of prosperity. And every time you feel fear or lack, you are sowing weeds that choke your harvest. Yet most people live unaware of this invisible cause and effect cycle and continue repeating the same inner conversations about bills and shortages. But when you take control of your imagination and assume the wallet is always full, life rearranges itself in mysterious ways to fulfill that assumption. Because imagination does not work in fragments, but in wholeness, ensuring that your bank balance, job opportunities, and random windfalls all conspire together to echo what you inwardly accept. And the beauty of this secret bridge is that it bypasses logic, allowing what seems impossible to walk right into your reality as though it was always meant for you. So if you want to change your financial story, you must first step onto this bridge by letting imagination become more real than appearances. For appearances are only the fading shadows of past beliefs, while imagination is the living script of your future. And the moment you understand this, you stop chasing money outside and begin cultivating wealth inside, which naturally overflows into your hands without struggle. And as you continue to practice this, the fear of lack dissolves, and the confidence of abundance takes root, creating a powerful inner stability that no economic downturn can shake. And this is why Neville insisted that the imagination is not a daydreaming tool, but the only creative power in existence. And once you see the wallet in your pocket as the living reflection of what you carry in your mind, you begin to realize that wealth has always been an inside job waiting for you to claim it fully. Imagine for a moment that every financial struggle you have ever faced was not caused by a bad economy, unfair employers, or unlucky timing, but rather by an unconscious allegiance to old imaginal pictures that kept replaying in your mind until they solidified as circumstances. Because Neville Goddard revealed that life does not respond to effort alone, but to assumption. An assumption is nothing more than the act of stepping into the feeling of already having what you desire. So when you picture yourself counting money, paying bills with ease, or receiving unexpected checks, and you allow that vision to feel natural, you have already crossed the secret bridge into a future where it is inevitable. Yet the reason most people never see results is that they cancel their imaginal work with doubt, constantly rehearsing conversations about what is missing, instead of saturating themselves with the joy of what is present in imagination. And once you see that these inner conversations are the true transactions shaping your outer wallet, you begin to treat every thought as a deposit or withdrawal, knowing that the bank of imagination never closes. So the more you invest in feelings of wealth, the richer the dividends that come back to you in physical form. And the less you indulge in conversations of lack, the less overdraft fees your life has to pay, which means your mind is the real financial institution and your imagination is its currency. And every single day you are either compounding interest in abundance or depleting your funds through fear. So if you dare to assume that wealth is already yours and hold that inner stance with persistence, the bridge of incidents will unfold in surprising and effortless ways to bring opportunities, gifts, and alignments that seem like coincidences, but are really the echo of your inner wealth consciousness. And as you practice this, you start noticing how small imaginal shifts create massive ripple effects, like someone suddenly offering you a deal, a client showing up out of nowhere, or even a forgotten refund landing in your account. And what once felt like random chance now feels like the natural outcome of a law you finally understand. Because the law of assumption was never about forcing results, but about knowing the bridge is already carrying you across to the reality you assumed. And when you surrender to this process, you move beyond worry and into trust, realizing that the outer world cannot resist the inner decree of imagination. So every time you hold your wallet, imagine it as a symbol of limitless supply. And soon enough, the outer reflection will bow to your inner authority, proving once again that imagination rules money, not the other way around. When you begin to grasp this truth on a deeper level, you start noticing how your wallet is not merely a place to keep notes and cards, but a living testament to the stories you tell yourself daily. Because Neville explained that what you carry inside becomes the script for what you hold outside, and the wallet becomes the perfect metaphor for this bridge, showing you that emptiness or fullness is never about the leather or the paper, but about the imaginal atmosphere surrounding it. So when you look into it and feel despair, you are rehearsing lack. But when you look into it and feel satisfaction, even if only a few coins are there, you are rehearsing wealth. And soon life adjusts itself to match the dominant rehearsal, which is why Neville urged people to live in the end. To see the wallet as already containing the abundance you desire, rather than waiting for physical proof, because imagination does not respond to waiting, but to claiming. And the moment you claim fullness in consciousness, the outer world cannot help but align, even if the method seems impossible to your rational mind. For imagination always finds the most natural bridge of incidents to cross you from where you stand to where you believe yourself to be. And this bridge may include chance meetings, forgotten debts repaid, surprising promotions, or sudden inspirations that lead to wealth. But every step of that bridge was paved the moment you assumed and felt the wallet was already rich. Which means that money is not something you chase, but something you summon by saturating your inner world with the feeling of already having. And in doing so, you strip away the desperation that usually pushes money further away, replacing it with the quiet confidence that pulls it closer. And this confidence is magnetic, drawing not just currency, but also opportunities, allies, and solutions that carry the fragrance of prosperity. So the wallet becomes more than a pouch of notes. It becomes a reminder that imagination is the real bank. And as you use it consciously, you will see the invisible bridge unfold beneath your feet, carrying you effortlessly toward the reality of abundance that has always been waiting for you. As you continue to walk across this invisible bridge, you start to realize that scarcity was never a physical condition, but a state of mind repeated so often that it hardened into fact, because the world outside only plays back the real you run inside. And Neville emphasized that if you want to shift your financial life, you must shift the imaginal film, projecting abundance instead of lack. Which means each time you imagine paying your bills with ease or seeing your wallet overflowing, you are rewriting the script of your life. And that new script must eventually appear on the stage of reality, just as surely as an actor follows the lines written for him. So when you persist in the assumption of wealth, even in the face of empty accounts, you are planting seeds that cannot fail to bloom. And while impatience tempts you to check for sprouts before the soil is ready, trust in the unseen process allows you to rest in the certainty that the harvest is guaranteed. Because the bridge of incidents is always moving, even when your physical eyes cannot yet see the planks beneath your feet. And the moment you stop doubting and start feeling, you will notice little shifts that reassure you, like unexpected discounts, helpful people, or opportunities that hint that the tide has turned. Yet these are not the cause of wealth, but the confirmation that imagination has already created it. For the real cause is always within. And when you honor that, you stop being tossed around by appearances, anchoring yourself instead in the truth that wealth begins as a state, not a paycheck. And this state draws circumstances to match it like iron filings to a magnet, making your external hustle secondary and your internal vision primary. So the wallet you hold is no longer a source of fear, but a sacred reminder of your creative authority. Because each time you touch it, you are invited to assume it is full, to bless it, and to feel the joy of abundance now, which over time rewires your mind into a natural wealth consciousness. And once that consciousness becomes normal, money flows in ways you never could have planned, proving again that imagination, not effort, is the bridge between your inner wealth and your outer wallet. The deeper you go into this realization, the more you begin to see that the so-called secret bridge is not a single event or sudden miracle, but a living current that quietly carries you from imagination to manifestation. Because Neville taught that life never skips steps, yet always delivers exactly what aligns with your dominant assumption. And this means that every time you imagine yourself wealthy and feel the reality of that scene, you are already walking across, whether you sense it or not. For the bridge is invisible until you look back and see how perfectly every incident lined up to deliver the outcome you once assumed. And when you understand this, you stop asking how or when and start trusting that the bridge is unfolding under your feet even while you sleep. So the wallet becomes less about numbers and more about faith. A symbol that reminds you to treat imagination as real currency that pays dividends in ways logic cannot predict. And while others complain about circumstances or obsess over strategies, you stand still in the knowing that assumption is already movement, that feeling rich within is already momentum, and soon life must echo it, for reality cannot resist the imprint of imagination. And once this truth becomes alive in you, you discover a profound freedom because you realize you do not need to manipulate people, beg for opportunities, or chase endlessly after money. But rather, you need to return again and again to the inner act of assumption, making it so vivid that the wallet in your imagination feels as natural as the wallet in your pocket. And when this becomes your practice, the world bends in your favor. Money arrives through channels both expected and unexpected. And you see that the bridge was never outside but always inside, guiding you gently toward the future you dared to claim. And as you keep allowing this truth to sink deeper, you begin to notice that the real power of imagination is not in scattered daydreams, but in the consistency of your inner assumption. Because Neville reminded us that feeling is the secret, and feeling transforms imagination from a wish into an inevitable fact. So when you imagine wealth but also feel the relief, joy, and confidence of already having it, you are impressing your subconscious with an unshakable command. And that subconscious, being the creative womb of reality, has no choice but to obey, arranging people, opportunities, and events into the perfect sequence to deliver what you felt. Which is why those who persist in wealth-conscious emotions eventually see the evidence in their wallets, while those who continue rehearsing fear find the outer reflection stuck in lack. Yet the choice has always been within, because no matter what your outer bank balance shows, you can still close your eyes, breathe deeply, and feel the sensation of abundance moving through you as if it were already real. And the moment you do this sincerely, you have already shifted. You have already crossed a step on the secret bridge. And life must now catch up to that new vibration, often in ways you least expect, because money does not always arrive in straight lines but through sudden openings, chance conversations, or even forgotten debts repaid, proving once more that imagination is not fantasy, but the blueprint of destiny. So your task is not to force the bridge, but to trust the bridge, to return again and again to the inner wallet that is always full, and to let the natural ease of faith carry you. For when you do, the outer wallet slowly but surely becomes a reflection of that fullness, confirming that the real wealth was always inside, and only waited for you to believe. The beauty of this process is that once you accept imagination as the source, you begin to treat every imaginal act as an investment. Because just as people deposit money into a savings account expecting interest to grow, you deposit vivid scenes and feelings into your subconscious, knowing they will yield returns in reality. And Neville often reminded his students that the subconscious never argues, but faithfully accepts whatever you impress upon it. So if you impress it with lack, it reproduces lack, but if you impress it with wealth, it multiplies that wealth in astonishing ways. And soon you see that every thought and feeling is a financial decision far more important than any budget or business plan. For the inner budget governs the outer one. meaning that when you catch yourself speaking of shortage or worrying about bills, you can pause and revise, planting instead the inner picture of abundance and letting that seed replace the weed. And though the mind at first resists, persistence makes wealth the natural conversation of your heart, which is why Neville compared imagination to planting invisible seeds that must sprout in due season. For just as no farmer digs up the soil each day to check if the roots are growing, you too must trust that the harvest is on its way. And when you live this way, your wallet no longer feels fragile or dependent on luck, but becomes a steady reflection of your inner abundance. Because every coin you see is multiplied in imagination, every note becomes a symbol of infinite flow, and soon life organizes itself to make your wallet a faithful mirror of what you have assumed, revealing the undeniable truth that the richest account is not at the bank, but in your imagination. What begins to dawn on you now is that the outer world, with all its ups and downs, never truly held the authority over your wealth, because Neville taught that money itself is neutral, powerless until you give it meaning, and that meaning is assigned by the imaginal lens through which you view it. So if you see money as scarce, fleeting, or difficult, then it will behave that way in your life. But if you see it as plentiful, easy, and always flowing, it will appear with the same character you imagined, proving that the wallet in your hand has always been nothing more than a mirror of your inner convictions. And as soon as you shift the conviction, the reflection must shift, which is why people who suddenly change their imaginal stance often notice outer results coming quickly. Because the bridge of incidents has been waiting only for their permission to unfold. And once given, life rushes to comply, weaving events that bring unexpected payments, promotions, or gifts, all of which feel like miracles, but are simply the law fulfilling itself. For the law was never about luck, but about assumption. An assumption is the invisible contract you sign with the universe each time you accept a feeling as true. So when you decide that your wallet is always full, that your income is always increasing, and that money loves to find you, you are signing a new contract that reality must honor. And the beauty of this is that it bypasses all logic, working even when you cannot see how. Because the how is not your job. The how belongs to imagination, which will always bridge the gap in the most natural way, leaving you free to rest in the joy of knowing the outcome is secure. And as this joy becomes your dwelling place, you discover that money has lost its power to intimidate you, and instead has become your servant, arriving in faithful response to the master key of imagination. And when you discover this freedom, you begin to understand why Neville placed such importance on the art of revision. Because just as you can imagine a future of wealth, you can also rewrite the past moments that chained you to lack. For every memory of financial struggle, every recollection of unpaid bills or embarrassing shortages can be revisited in imagination and reshaped into a scene of victory, where instead of lack, you see yourself handling it with ease. Instead of rejection, you hear approval. And instead of emptiness, you feel abundance. And as you revise these scenes, you free yourself from the emotional weight that keeps projecting the same failures forward. Because the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what really happened and what you vividly imagine. It simply accepts the new script and produces corresponding effects. And when you master this, your wallet begins to reflect not the disappointments of yesterday, but the victories of today. Because you have uprooted the weeds of past failures and replaced them with seeds of wealth. And over time, this practice creates a financial atmosphere around you that feels lighter, freer, and more magnetic, drawing to you money and opportunities because you no longer carry the burden of old losses. And while others remain trapped by their past, you rewrite yours daily, ensuring that the bridge you walk is always paved with favorable incidents. And this habit not only heals your relationship with money, but also dissolves the fear of repeating mistakes, giving you the confidence to imagine boldly and receive lavishly. For you now know that nothing in the past has the power to dictate your future, unless you allow it. And imagination gives you the key to release yourself from those old prisons, proving that your financial destiny is never fixed, but always flexible in the hands of your inner vision. As this practice deepens, you start to realize that imagination itself is like a hidden bank account where every scene you create is a deposit, and every assumption you hold is an investment. Because Neville explained that what you continually impress upon the subconscious builds up interest and must be paid out in the outer world. So when you picture your wallet full, your bank balance rising, or your income multiplying, you are in truth crediting your account in the unseen. And soon enough, the returns come in ways that surprise and delight you. For the law never forgets a single deposit. And while people in the world may talk about saving, cutting, and scrimping, you are learning that the greatest savings plan is to fill your inner vault with wealth-conscious images. Knowing that imagination compounds faster than any stock or bond. And when you look at your outer wallet, you begin to see it not as the source, but as the receipt, a record of what you have already assumed within. Which means that if you don't like what you see, you simply change the inner balance rather than worrying about the outer one. And this shift takes the strain off your mind, replacing worry with faith, because you know the law cannot fail. And the more you deposit feelings of wealth, the more confident you become that payout is inevitable. For no energy impressed is ever lost, it always returns multiplied. And when you live this way, you become less reactive to temporary shortages and more focused on the certainty of inner abundance, which then flows outward in the perfect timing, teaching you that the safest bank, the surest investment, and the truest currency has always been imagination. Silently bridging every desire into tangible wealth. Now, as you grow more comfortable with this inner banking system, you begin to explore one of Neville's most practical methods, the state akin to sleep, where you allow your body to drift into drowsiness while your imagination remains alert. Because in that twilight state, the conscious mind relaxes its resistance and the subconscious becomes wide open to suggestion, making it the perfect moment to impress the feeling of wealth as already yours. So when you picture yourself counting money, seeing deposits, or holding a wallet overflowing with notes in that state, the scene sinks deeply into the creative womb of your mind. And from there it must be born into reality. For the subconscious never fails to give birth to what it has been impregnated with. And as you make this practice nightly, you find that the outer world begins to shift in subtle but powerful ways, aligning circumstances and opportunities to deliver what you impressed, often so naturally that you forget you once imagined it. And this ease is the mark of the law working faithfully, for imagination never needs strain, it simply needs faith and repetition. So each evening as you surrender into the state akin to sleep, you are crossing the bridge in advance, rehearsing the wealth you want until it becomes the only natural state for you. And the beauty of this practice is that it requires no effort, no physical resources, and no special conditions beyond your willingness to relax and believe. Which means anyone, no matter their outer situation, can transform their financial life by making this inner act a ritual. And as you persist, the wallet in your waking hours becomes the reflection of the wallet you filled in your imaginal sleep, proving once again that reality is the shadow and imagination is the substance, and that the secret bridge is always walked in the quiet hours before the world even has a chance to catch up. As this nightly practice becomes second nature, you begin to carry its effects into the waking hours. And one of the simplest yet most powerful techniques Neville shared was to treat your wallet itself as a living symbol of abundance. Because every time you touch it, open it, or think about it, you are given an opportunity to impress wealth or to rehearse lack. So instead of sighing when you see only a few notes, you learn to bless those notes, to feel as though they are multiplied, to imagine the wallet brimming with more than enough. And this small act transforms the ordinary habit of checking your wallet into a sacred ritual of assumption, turning a moment of potential worry into a moment of creation. And the subconscious, ever faithful, accepts the new feeling without question, arranging outer events to mirror your inner conviction, which means that even a thin wallet in the physical can be treated as a doorway to an overflowing wallet in imagination, and the latter always precedes the former. So soon the wallet in your hand begins to change, catching up to the fullness you rehearsed inwardly. And this practice not only reshapes your finances, but also heals your emotional relationship with money. Because the wallet stops being a reminder of what you lack and becomes a reminder of your creative authority. And as you continue, you develop a sense of quiet confidence that wealth is always with you, regardless of the numbers, because you know the law works without fail, and that knowing itself attracts more supply. For confidence is magnetic, pulling resources toward it like a magnet draws metal. And so your wallet becomes more than a tool. It becomes an altar where you practice the law daily, ensuring that imagination is always the bridge between your inner vision and your outer reality. And as you treat your wallet with this reverence, something even more profound begins to awaken in you. The realization that money itself is never the goal, but merely the shadow of the true substance, which is consciousness. Because Neville was clear that consciousness is the only reality, and that wealth, like all things, is simply a reflection of the state you occupy. So when you choose the state of abundance, when you walk through your day already feeling provided for, your wallet cannot help but echo that choice. But if you continue to live in the state of fear or lack, no amount of physical effort will permanently change your situation. Or you will always sabotage the gains with the assumptions you still carry. And this is why so many chase money endlessly, yet never feel secure, while a few quietly assume wealth within and watch as life bends to reflect it. And once you grasp this, you stop making money your master and begin making imagination your companion, because you now understand that every outer dollar is simply proof of the inner state you have lived in. And as you practice dwelling in abundance, you begin to feel wealthy even before the wallet fattens, which paradoxically speeds its arrival. For reality always rushes to confirm the state most dominant in you. And over time you see that wealth is less about chasing and more about resting, less about grasping and more about assuming, until eventually you feel a calm assurance that no matter what, you will always be supported, because your consciousness has already claimed it. And when that assurance becomes your dwelling place, your wallet becomes a faithful witness, silently testifying to the abundance that first began in the unseen. As this calm assurance grows stronger, you notice that life begins arranging itself in ways that almost seem orchestrated. For Neville often described this unfolding as the bridge of incidents, the invisible path your imagination constructs to carry you from where you are to where you desire to be. And though you cannot predict the steps in advance, you find yourself nudged toward meetings, ideas, and chances that feel both natural and extraordinary, as if life itself is conspiring in your favor. So perhaps a casual conversation introduces you to someone with an opportunity, or a delayed payment suddenly arrives at the perfect time, or a forgotten idea resurfaces and proves profitable. And while others may call these coincidences, you recognize them as the bridge, the outer evidence of the inner work you have done, where imagination never leaves you stranded. It always provides the stepping stones, but only in the moment you need them, never before. And this is why faith is essential, because the bridge does not reveal itself in full, but unfolds one step at a time, requiring you to trust the unseen map while walking in the seen world. And as you do, you begin to marvel at how effortlessly solutions appear without strain, almost as if the universe anticipated every need before you even voiced it, which deepens your confidence in the law and makes you less dependent on outer sources, for you now know the source has always been within. And the wallet in your pocket becomes less a measure of what you own, and more a symbol of how faithfully you are walking the bridge, reminding you daily that imagination has already secured the end, and reality is simply catching up. And as you continue walking across this unseen bridge, you begin to notice how your inner conversations are the quiet architects of your outer world. Because Neville insisted that every word you mutter to yourself is a seed, and the subconscious is the soil that never rejects a planting. So when you catch yourself worrying about bills, doubting your ability, or speaking lack even in your mind, you realize that you are scattering weeds that will soon choke out your desired harvest. But when you deliberately shift those inner conversations into ones of wealth, gratitude, and certainty, you feel the ground of your being change. And soon your outer wallet begins to catch up with the new dialogue, For reality is always echoing what you most persistently whisper within. And though at first the old voice of lack may try to rise up and argue, you discover that persistent silences it, just as a steady stream of water wears down the hardest stone. And the more you rehearse the voice of wealth inside, the more natural it becomes, until lack no longer feels like an option. And at that moment the bridge accelerates, because nothing blocks it more than contradicting conversations. So when you keep the inner dialogue aligned with your chosen end, life rushes to fulfill it, sometimes so quickly that you laugh at how easily you could have missed it if you hadn't been watching. And this laughter is the sweetest confirmation that the law is alive, working in ways you once thought impossible. And the wallet you hold in your hand becomes the evidence not of chance or effort, but of the invisible talk that shaped it, proving that wealth is not built outside in, but inside out, beginning with the simple yet profound decision to speak abundance to yourself until it becomes the only language you know. And as that new language of abundance becomes the natural soundtrack of your mind, you start to see how effortlessly it shifts not only your wallet, but the entire atmosphere of your life. Because Neville often reminded us that assumption hardens into fact. And when your assumptions are rooted in prosperity, everything around you begins to bend toward that frequency. So even casual encounters at a store, a phone call, or an email can suddenly carry opportunities that were invisible before, as though the world itself is tuned to your inner station. And this tuning is not forced but automatic, for the law does not struggle, it simply reflects. So when you assume wealth, the law quietly arranges for wealth to show up in ways that seem ordinary yet feel divinely timed. And the more you notice this, the more confidence you gain in treating every moment as proof that imagination rules, which makes you less anxious about chasing money or controlling outcomes, because you now know that wealth is magnetized to you by the state you carry. And this magnetism grows stronger the more relaxed you become, until eventually you realize that effort, in the traditional sense, is often a form of resistance, while ease is a form of alignment. And when you align, things just flow. Debts dissolve, opportunities increase, ideas surface, and money moves freely toward you as if drawn by an invisible current. And the wallet you once feared checking becomes a playful reminder that the real supply is endless and unseen, always waiting for you to give it permission to appear. Which means you no longer measure your wealth by numbers alone, but by the certainty that imagination, once assumed, must produce its shadow in reality. And as this certainty settles into your being, you begin to notice that wealth is not only showing up in your wallet, but also in the form of unexpected ease. Because Neville explained that when you occupy the end, life takes care of the middle. And suddenly what once felt like uphill battles now unfold like gentle slopes. So the job you thought required endless effort resolves itself through a simple phone call. The idea you dismissed as impractical suddenly gains momentum, or the friend you had not spoken to in years reappears with a solution you could not have imagined. And these happenings remind you that imagination is not limited to one channel of delivery, but has infinite ways of bringing supply. So you no longer demand how it must arrive, you simply rest in the knowing that it will. And this trust makes you magnetic, because people can sense when you carry an atmosphere of abundance without fear, and they are drawn to it without knowing why, offering opportunities, favors, and resources as if compelled. And what once felt like coincidence now feels like the natural rhythm of living in assumption. So the wallet you hold becomes only one expression of the wealth you are embodying. For you start to see richness in your time, your relationships, your health, and your peace of mind. And all of it is evidence that the bridge between imagination and your wallet is not fragile, but unbreakable, carrying you steadily toward more, so much more, until lack itself feels like a faint memory of a life you no longer belong to, replaced entirely by the unfolding story of abundance you write daily with your inner vision. And as you grow accustomed to this effortless flow, you begin to notice that your imagination works like a magnet, not only on money, but on every circumstance. Because Neville taught that whatever you assume and persist in feeling becomes the invisible architect of your reality. So when you consistently feel wealthy, capable, and supported, life mirrors that assumption through opportunities, connections, and ideas you might never have planned. And the beauty of it is that these manifestations often arrive in ways so natural you almost overlook them. Yet they confirm that the inner state is the only true cause. And as you practice this, you stop struggling against appearances, no longer trying to force outcomes, but simply living as if your desires have already been fulfilled. And this living in the end creates a steady current beneath your daily experience, guiding events toward your assumed reality. So what once required worry, strategy, and constant calculation now unfolds with an ease that feels almost miraculous, because the law of assumption never rests. It quietly organizes everything to match your dominant feeling. And the wallet you carry becomes a daily reminder that supply is infinite, opportunities are everywhere, and the world will always comply with the state you inhabit. And as you hold that knowledge, you notice your confidence grows, your stress diminishes, and even small gestures of abundance, like unexpected coins, helpful words, or timely assistance, feel like confirmations of the bridge working beneath the surface, proving that imagination is not a pastime or fantasy, but the only real source of wealth, quietly, invisibly, yet inevitably transforming every corner of your life. And as this awareness deepens, you begin to understand that wealth is not about accumulation alone, but about alignment. Because Neville emphasized that the outer world is always a reflection of the inner state. And so when you align your thoughts, feelings, and assumptions with the experience of having more than enough, everything around you shifts to match, and you start noticing how small, seemingly insignificant choices and attitudes begin to influence your financial flow, like the way you greet a client, the confidence in a conversation, or the generosity you extend to others, all of which return to you multiplied, because the law of assumption does not discriminate. It only reproduces what it has been fed. And as you continue to feed it images of abundance, your wallet begins to fill in ways that feel natural and deserved, rather than forced or stressful. Yet even more importantly, you recognize that the process is joyful, for imagining wealth and feeling it is itself a reward, a daily celebration of the bridge working beneath the surface. And while people may chase salaries or bargains, you simply immerse yourself in the inner reality, knowing the outer will adjust. And this inner mastery brings a kind of calm power, because you realize that life cannot withhold what you already hold inside. And the wallet in your pocket becomes a faithful witness to the unseen work of imagination, quietly testifying that every deposit you have made in feeling and assumption is being faithfully returned. And over time, you stop worrying about how it will happen, letting life orchestrate the details. And with that, letting go comes a freedom so profound that even temporary setbacks no longer disturb you. For you know the bridge is steady, reliable, and ever-present, carrying you toward the abundance you assumed long before it manifested. And as you stand on the other side of these repeated imaginal acts, you begin to realize that the bridge between imagination and your wallet is not a distant mystery, but a living current that has been carrying you all along. Because Neville's teaching makes it clear that reality is nothing more than the shadow of your inner state. And the more consistently you assume and feel wealth, the more inevitable its reflection becomes. So when you notice opportunities, unexpected payments, or sudden financial relief, you understand that they are not miracles, but the natural outcome of the law, faithfully executing what you have impressed upon it. And as this realization settles in, you begin to treat every moment as a chance to deposit new assumptions, knowing that even a thought, a feeling, or a brief vision of abundance strengthens the bridge and guarantees a future manifestation. And the wallet you hold becomes a living testament, a daily reminder that your inner reality is the only true source. And as you continue to honor this inner authority, your confidence grows, fear dissolves, and gratitude becomes the underlying tone of your existence. Because you now know that wealth is not about struggle, timing, or chance, but about alignment, persistence, and the vivid, consistent feeling of already having. And when this becomes your natural way of being, life arranges itself effortlessly, bringing circumstances, people, and ideas to you in perfect timing. so that even challenges become opportunities to reaffirm the assumption of abundance. And over time, you see that the secret bridge Neville spoke of was never theoretical or distant, but something you walked on every day, invisibly and faithfully, until your outer wallet finally reflects the inner richness you claimed long before, proving that imagination, when assumed and felt fully, is the ultimate currency, the true source, and the unshakable foundation upon which all wealth is built. And as you move beyond the early stages of understanding, you begin to notice that imagination is not merely a tool for wealth, but a full-time companion, shaping every aspect of your life. Because Neville emphasized that nothing in the outer world has power except what you grant it through your inner state. So when you continue to live in the feeling of abundance, the world begins to comply in ways that feel effortless, almost magical, yet entirely natural, as if life itself has been waiting for you to claim this authority. And small hints appear everywhere: an unexpected client, a timely suggestion, a piece of advice that perfectly matches your need, proving that the bridge is always at work, even when unseen. And as you pay attention, you start to recognize patterns, realizing that your imagination is constantly leading the way, while your conscious mind has often been distracted by worry or doubt. And the wallet in your hand becomes more than a container of money. It becomes a symbol of the unseen process, a reminder that wealth is produced inwardly before it appears outwardly. And the more you honor that, the more effortless the flow becomes. Because the law never fails and the subconscious never refuses what has been impressed upon it. And even setbacks now serve as signals to correct your inner state rather than reasons to panic. For you understand that outer events are merely feedback, not the final authority. And as this perspective solidifies, you find a deep calm, a steady confidence, and a subtle joy that accompanies every transaction, every deposit, and every windfall, proving once again that imagination is the true source, and the bridge connecting it to your wallet is always ready to carry you toward more abundant experiences. And as this understanding grows, you begin to notice that your imagination is constantly at work, whether you direct it consciously or allow it to wander. Because Neville taught that the subconscious mind accepts whatever impression is strongest and persists until it manifests. So every fleeting worry, every fleeting doubt about money, every imagined shortage quietly builds patterns that will eventually appear in your wallet if left unchecked. Yet when you intentionally focus on scenes of abundance, prosperity, and financial ease, you are taking control of the most powerful creative force in your life. And over time, you see how effortlessly the world responds, bringing opportunities, solutions, and unexpected gains that seem perfectly timed, as if life itself is aligning to confirm your inner state, and the wallet you carry becomes the mirror of these inner deposits, reflecting not just currency but the trust, joy, and certainty you cultivate. And this reflection grows stronger each day, because the law never rests. It quietly fulfills what is assumed, and you realize that your outer struggle was never the cause but the effect. And now that you consciously inhabit the state of wealth, all outer manifestations flow naturally without force, worry, or strain, and you begin to feel a deep gratitude, knowing that abundance is no longer a distant goal, but a living experience, always present when assumed. And this gratitude itself becomes a magnet, drawing more opportunities and wealth to you, reinforcing the bridge between imagination and the wallet, until your inner certainty transforms every transaction, every encounter, and every thought into a demonstration of the abundance that has always been your unseen inheritance. And as you continue to inhabit this state, you begin to notice that the bridge between imagination and your wallet is not a single moment of manifestation, but an ongoing process, because Neville emphasized that the law works continuously, quietly shaping circumstances according to the dominant feeling you maintain. So even when the outer world seems unchanged, unseen currents are aligning events to match the inner state you persist in. And as you pay attention, you begin to see subtle confirmations, an unexpected payment, a timely conversation, an idea that appears out of nowhere, that all point to the faithful work of imagination. And the wallet in your pocket becomes a living record of these inner acts, reflecting not only money, but also the confidence, clarity, and persistence you cultivate. And the more you practice this, the less external struggle matters, because you understand that effort alone cannot produce what your imagination can. And when you consistently feel wealthy, even before the evidence arrives, you are planting seeds that reality cannot ignore. And as these seeds grow, you notice that life itself seems to move in your favor, arranging people, opportunities, and circumstances with a synchronicity that feels almost orchestrated, yet it is simply the law fulfilling its purpose. And every time you reinforce the assumption of abundance, the bridge strengthens, carrying you further toward the reality you imagined, so that eventually your wallet is not merely full, but a faithful witness to the unseen currents of imagination, proving that wealth is never out first, but inside first. And the outer world is simply the echo of what you persistently assume and feel. And as you grow more attuned to this unseen current, you begin to understand that the real work is not in acquiring money, but in cultivating a state of consciousness that money cannot resist, because Neville taught that the inner state determines the outer conditions. And when you consistently feel prosperous, confident, and secure, life arranges itself to match that vibration. So the wallet you carry becomes a tangible reflection of an invisible process, quietly confirming that every assumption, every feeling, and every imaginal act has been faithfully recorded by your subconscious. And the more you notice this, the more effortless the flow becomes, for you no longer have to chase, manipulate, or struggle. Opportunities, payments, and windfalls simply appear in perfect timing, often in ways so natural you barely recognize them as the work of imagination. Yet they are the proof of the law in action. And as you continue this practice, even small reminders, a coin on the sidewalk, a timely discount, a helpful suggestion, serve as confirmations that the bridge is strong, reliable, and always at work. And with each confirmation, your trust deepens, your confidence grows, and your sense of abundance becomes so natural that fear and lack lose their grip entirely. And this freedom allows you to dream bigger, imagine bolder, and feel richer than ever before, knowing that imagination is the currency that produces all other currencies, and that the bridge between the unseen and your wallet will always carry you faithfully toward the reality you choose to embody, proving that wealth is nothing more than the natural reflection of a mind fully aligned with abundance. And as this alignment becomes second nature, you begin to notice that wealth is no longer dependent on circumstances. For Neville taught that the outer world is powerless without the inner decree. And so when you maintain a feeling of abundance regardless of what appears outside, life must conform to that state, arranging events, people, and opportunities to match your inner reality. And the wallet you hold is no longer a measure of struggle, but a mirror of what you have assumed, faithfully reflecting the confidence, creativity, and joy you carry. And as you practice this daily, even small gestures of money, favors, or unexpected assistance feel like confirmations that the bridge is working perfectly, quietly aligning the unseen with the seen. And with each confirmation, your trust deepens, your imagination grows more vivid, and the effortless flow of abundance becomes increasingly undeniable, so that what once required anxiety, planning, and calculation now unfolds with ease. And you begin to realize that life itself is an obedient servant to the state you inhabit, that every thought and feeling is an investment, and that imagination, when consciously assumed and persistently felt, produces a harvest that is always proportional to the depth of your inner conviction. And over time, you notice that your sense of security, freedom, and opportunity expands far beyond what money alone could provide. For the bridge has carried you not just to a full wallet, but to a new consciousness, a state of being where wealth is constant, reliable, and inseparable from the life you have imagined and assumed as real. And as this new consciousness settles, you begin to recognize that every moment is an opportunity to reinforce the state of abundance, because Neville emphasized that imagination does not rest and the subconscious never forgets. So each scene you rehearse, each feeling of wealth you dwell in, becomes a deposit that the universe faithfully returns. And as you make this a constant habit, you notice subtle shifts in how opportunities, people, and resources appear, often in ways that feel effortless yet perfectly timed, and the wallet in your hand becomes a daily testament to the unseen bridge, reminding you that the outer world is simply echoing what you already hold within. And as you continue, you realize that setbacks, delays, or temporary shortages are never signs of failure, but signals to correct your inner assumption, to return to the feeling of already having. And when you do, the bridge reasserts itself immediately, aligning circumstances to match your inner state, so that what once felt like struggle now feels like a gentle unfolding. And the more consistently you inhabit this consciousness, the more automatic the law becomes, producing wealth, opportunities, and solutions without strain or worry. And in time, you begin to experience a life where money flows naturally, the wallet feels full as a reflection of inner certainty, and every encounter, transaction, and decision resonates with the effortless rhythm of the bridge, proving that imagination is the master key, and that wealth is nothing more than the faithful shadow of the inner world you choose to live in. And as this understanding deepens, you begin to notice that the bridge between imagination and your wallet works not only in moments of deliberate practice, but also in your daily, seemingly mundane activities. Because Neville emphasized that the subconscious responds to dominant feeling rather than conscious effort. So even casual thoughts, offhand remarks, or passing emotions about money quietly influence the outer world. And the wallet you carry becomes a living mirror of these invisible currents, reflecting what you have repeatedly assumed. And when you cultivate a consistent state of wealth, gratitude, and confidence, life begins arranging itself effortlessly, often through subtle coincidences that feel miraculous, yet are simply the law fulfilling what you have impressed. And as you continue, you realize that patience and persistence are key. Because the bridge unfolds according to the depth and consistency of your inner conviction, not according to deadlines or logic. And even temporary obstacles serve to redirect you back to the feeling of abundance rather than to deter you. And when you consciously return to this feeling, the outer world adjusts almost immediately, confirming that the law never rests and imagination never fails. And over time, the wallet becomes less a concern and more a symbol of mastery, reminding you that wealth is always the reflection of the inner state you choose to inhabit, and that every scene, thought, and feeling carries the power to either strengthen or weaken the bridge, ensuring that your financial life is a faithful mirror of your inner world, and that the secret connection Neville spoke of is always at work, quietly, invisibly, yet unfailingly. And as you continue to inhabit this state, you begin to realize that the true power of the bridge is not in the arrival of money itself, but in the transformation of your consciousness. Because Neville taught that the outer world cannot resist the inner reality you occupy. So when you persist in imagining abundance, your thoughts, feelings, and assumptions shape a magnetism that draws wealth effortlessly. And even when circumstances appear contrary, you understand that these are merely signals to return to the inner state rather than evidence of failure. And the wallet you carry becomes a symbol, a daily reminder that abundance is always present within before it appears without. And as you practice this consistently, you begin to notice patterns, such as timely opportunities, sudden ideas, or unexpected financial assistance, all of which confirm the invisible work of imagination. And the more you trust, the more automatic the process becomes, allowing life to orchestrate details in ways that surpass your planning or effort. And soon you experience a sense of ease and certainty that makes chasing, worrying, or controlling unnecessary, because you know that the law of assumption never rests, and the bridge between imagination and reality is always faithfully carrying you toward what you have assumed. And over time, you feel a profound shift. Money is no longer a source of stress, but a reflection of your mastery, a mirror of the inner state you cultivate daily, proving that imagination is the ultimate currency, and your wallet is simply the echo of the abundant life you first imagined, quietly and reliably unfolding. And as this process becomes effortless, you begin to notice that the bridge Neville spoke of is not a one-time path, but a living, dynamic current that responds to every thought and feeling you cultivate. Because imagination, once assumed and persistently felt, continues to shape circumstances long before the outer world catches up. So even when your wallet seems ordinary, the unseen flow is arranging people, opportunities, and events in perfect alignment to reflect your inner state, And as you observe this, patience and trust replace anxiety, for you realize that life unfolds according to the law, not according to timing you dictate. And every deposit of feeling, every vivid scene of abundance you hold, compounds invisibly, producing results that eventually manifest in the outer world. And the wallet in your hand becomes a faithful witness to this truth, reminding you that reality always follows imagination, and that setbacks or delays are merely prompts to return the inner assumption rather than causes for doubt. And as you embrace this, a sense of ease and empowerment grows within you, making it natural to expect, feel, and act in accordance with abundance. And over time, the bridge strengthens with every consistent thought, every calm assumption, and every joyful feeling, ensuring that your financial life is a perfect mirror of your inner wealth, and proving beyond question that imagination is the true source, and your wallet is simply the faithful echo of the abundance you assume and inhabit daily. And now, as you arrive at this final part of the journey, you begin to see clearly that the bridge between imagination and your wallet is not a distant secret, but a living reality that has been unfolding beneath your awareness all along. Because Neville taught that life is a faithful mirror, reflecting the state you occupy. So when you persistently imagine abundance, hold the feeling of wealth, and assume the end is already accomplished, every event, every person, and every circumstance aligns to confirm it. And the wallet you carry is no longer merely a container of currency, but a testament to the unseen law, silently testifying to the consistent, faithful work of imagination. And as you reflect on the path you have walked, you recognize that patience, persistence, and the mastery of your inner state were the true keys, while money, opportunities, and wealth were simply the natural outcome. And every scene you imagined, every feeling you held, every act of faith has compounded into a reality that matches your inner conviction, so that the outer world could not help but comply. And the joy of this realization brings a calm, unshakable confidence, because you understand that the law never fails. Imagination is the only source, and the bridge is always present, carrying you steadily toward every desire you choose to assume as real. And as you step forward from here, you do so not in struggle or fear, but in the quiet power of knowing, fully confident that your wallet, your life, and your world will continue to reflect the abundant, rich inner reality you have faithfully maintained, proving once and for all that wealth begins not in effort, negotiation, or circumstance, but within the vivid, living assumption of imagination that Neville Goddard revealed as the ultimate law.